They held you down. 5 men, 1 brand, 1 verdict. You remember the smell first. Iron, smoke, sweat from the glove that pressed your jaw shut. Then the hiss, then the pain. They burned it just above your hip, high enough to show if your dress ever slipped. It wasn't the fire that broke you, it was the voice of your father, low behind the barn wall, saying nothing, not even turning away. You didn't scream, you didn't cry, you only counted. Nails in the beam, footsteps in the dirt. The number of stars that would outlast all of them, you rode out that night. Didn't pack, didn't write. Just took your mother's saddlebag, a skin of water, and the bridle she stitched long ago with blue thread woven into its leather seams. No map, only west. You were the rancher's daughter, the one who let a Comanche boy share her apples when you were 10, the one who learned their names, their colors, their silences. They called you a traitor. No trial, just fire. And now the land stretches empty in front of you. You ride until the horse gives, until the sun forgets your name, until the creek bends under cottonwoods and you fall into it. Boots still on, dress torn, hands blistered. You lose time, but not breath. It comes back in pieces, cold on your lips. The wet slap of current, the ache of a rib that's not where it should be, and then footsteps, not loud, measured, then quiet, then closer. A shadow passes over you. You look up and meet the eyes of a man who doesn't move like a stranger. Comanche, but not young. Face weathered, not cruel. No weapon drawn, only a leather strap in his hand. You do not speak, neither does he. He crouches, presses 2 fingers to your throat, then to your ribs, then to the brand. He doesn't flinch, but something hardens in his jaw. You brace for pain. It doesn't come, only his hand lifting yours from the mud. Then you black out. When you wake, there's smoke, not choking, cedar, and a blanket, not yours. You're in a cave, not deep, not dry, but safe. The brand throbs beneath your ribs, but you are whole. Beside you, your saddlebag, your mother's bridle, wiped clean, a fire, a bowl of something bitter and warm, and beside it, a feather, not fallen, placed. You do not yet know his name, but you already feel the echo of it in your bones, and somewhere far off, in the place they marked you to erase, your old name burns down to ash. You are still here, and now you begin again. The fever doesn't come. You expect it. Wait for the trembling, the sweat, the slipping between this world and the next, but it doesn't arrive. Instead, you wake steady, bruised, hollow, but clear. The fire's gone low. He's there, crouched by the entrance of the cave, sharpening something. Not a blade. Bone. You sit up slow, the blanket slipping from your shoulders. He doesn't turn, but he knows. You feel it in the way his breath adjusts, how his shoulders square slightly, then ease. No words, just presence. You glance around, no saddle, no bridle. Only the feather still tucked beside you, its shaft dark with moisture. Cedar smoke? Blood? You can't tell. When he finally speaks, it's not in English. 3 syllables, soft, measured. He doesn't look at you as he says them, but gestures to your side. You realize he's named the brand, or perhaps renamed it. You press your fingers lightly to the raw mark. The skin bubbles beneath your touch. He doesn't flinch, neither do you. That night he brings water in a horn flask and leaves a poultice wrapped in bark. He doesn't linger to apply it. He lets you choose. You do. The sting makes your eyes water. You don't make a sound. The second day, He brings willow bark boiled to bitterness and a strip of dried meat soaked in juniper. You take both. He watches from a distance, perched on a flat stone, back to the wind. His horse waits at the edge of the canyon, rein slack, unmoving. Yours is nowhere in sight. You ask nothing, not yet. But as night falls, he steps into the firelight and lays something between you, a scrap of rawhide, drawn on it, a map, rough, symbols, lines that loop into rivers, small X's along the way. He points to one, then to you, then to the fire. A pause, then to himself, then a slow, deliberate motion, hand over heart, then toward the canyon's western lip. You understand. He's offering passage, not rescue, not ownership, an invitation to follow, but only if you rise on your own. You nod once, he nods back. And the next morning you walk, not because he waits, because you're ready. The cave falls behind with no spoken goodbye, but the feather remains tucked in your hair, where he placed it while you slept. You only realize this as the sun catches it in the river reflection beside you. You touch it once. Say nothing. But in that moment, though he still hasn't told you his name, you begin to feel known. The brand still burns beneath your shirt, but somehow it feels less like punishment, more like memory. You walk for a day beside him, maybe two. Time starts to stretch, then fold, like river currents under ice. He doesn't speak, but he doesn't hide. He moves with you, not ahead, not behind, beside. When you stumble, he doesn't reach for you, but he waits. When you pause, he gathers dry brush and fans the fire with one hand. He whistles to birds in a pattern, not music, message. Late on the second night, you reach a lowland basin ringed in cottonwood and willows. Dozens of horses graze in quiet. He kneels near one, pressing his palm to its chest, whispering something low. You watch, arms crossed, not because you don't trust him, because you don't yet trust yourself. Then, a moment. He turns and gestures to you. You approach. He lays your hand against the mare's cheek. It shivers. You hold, slow. And the horse breathes steady beneath your fingers. You both stay there for a while. You ask, finally, her name? He responds, not with a word, with a sound. Low, almost a hum. It could be a name, could be a feeling. Either way, it belongs to her now. The next morning, you help boil willow bark and lavender buds in an old pot blackened with years of fire. He hands you a rough-spun cloth. Together, you press it against a limping colt's shoulder. You don't flinch when it squeals. He nods once, a gesture of respect. You smile, just slightly. And the moment settles between you. That night, you find the bridle he'd taken from your saddlebag. It hangs near the fire, cleaned and oiled, the blue thread still tight. But there's something new. Near the bit, small dots have been painted in ochre, a line of symbols you don't understand. You hold it toward him, questioning. He shrugs, almost sheepishly. You press. He lifts his hand, touches your shoulder. Not where the brand is, but the opposite side. Then makes a circling motion near the heart. You get it. The symbols aren't his name, they're yours. Rewritten, reclaimed. You turn it over again and see what he carved into the leather beneath the chin strap. A symbol that wasn't there before, a fire ringed in horse prints. You trace it once, breath caught. Then slip it into your saddlebag without a word. That night's sleep comes easier. The dreams don't claw, they drift. horses running in blue dusk, voices echoing like canyon winds. In the morning you wake before him, start the fire, slice the meat, boil the bark. He rises, sees it, and doesn't smile. But he nods, and that's enough. You eat in silence, seated across from each other, the saddlebag between you. For a moment it feels like a home, not because of the place, because of the rhythm, the breath, the unspoken truce. Then he breaks it, gently, lays a length of horsehair rope in front of you, knots it twice, hands it over. You nod, understand. Today you'll ride again. And when you do, the bridle, your name rewoven into leather, will be the thing between your hands and the mouth of something wild. You don't fear it, you welcome it, because now the path forward is no longer flight, it's choice. You ride like you've never fallen, like no fire ever touched you. The horse beneath you isn't yours, but it carries you as if it remembers the sound of your voice before you were broken. The bridle fits, your hands know what to do. And beside you, always beside, he rides, not watching, just there. The land changes. Rock gives way to grass, grass to dust, dust to something colder, a wind that speaks in old voices. He slows at a bend in the canyon, reins loose. You follow. Ahead a circle of painted stones. No markers, but a story laid in shape. He dismounts, kneels, touches one, then another. You hesitate, then drop beside him. One stone bears a single carved notch, another 3. He taps them in sequence, points to the horizon, then to himself, then back to the stones. You understand? Family gone, you place your palm over the largest stone, then gently, the feather still braided in your hair. He watches you do it, doesn't stop you, doesn't speak. But when you stand, his eyes linger not on the stones, but on the space your hand had pressed, as if something was passed, not given, returned. The sun dips low. You ride again, not far, to a place neither marked nor hidden, a hollow in the land, ringed with ash trees. A leather tarp stretches between 2 branches. There's a small fire, freshly tended, and there, waiting, the saddle. Not your old one. This one is worn differently, carved, burnished, painted. You dismount and approach. Your fingers brush over the edge of the seat, tracing shapes you don't yet read. But you feel them. Flames, a bird, a pair of eyes, half-lidded, and then your name. Not written in letters, but painted in curves and dots, wrapped into the border, as if it was always part of the saddle's story. You look to him. He doesn't meet your gaze, but he nods once, slow, and places something beside it, your old bridle, the one he'd remarked, the one with your name carved not into the bit, but the heartline. Time starts to stretch, then fold, like river currents under ice. He doesn't speak, but he doesn't hide. He moves with you, not ahead, not behind, beside. When you stumble, he doesn't reach for you, but he waits. When you pause, he gathers dry brush and fans the fire with one hand. He whistles to birds in a pattern, not music, message. Late on the second night, you reach a lowland basin, ringed in cottonwood and willows. Dozens of horses graze in quiet. He kneels near one, pressing his palm to its chest, whispering something low. You watch, arms crossed, not because you don't trust him, because you don't yet trust yourself. Then, a moment. He turns and gestures to you. You approach. He lays your hand against the mare's cheek. It shivers. You hold, slow. And the horse breathes steady beneath your fingers. You both stay there for a while. You ask, finally, her name? He responds, not with a word, with a sound, low, almost a hum. It could be a name, could be a feeling. Either way, it belongs to her now. The next morning, you help boil willow bark and lavender buds in an old pot blackened with years of fire. He hands you a rough-spun cloth. Together, you press it against a limping colt's shoulder. You don't flinch when it squeals. He nods once, a gesture of respect. You smile, just slightly. And the moment settles between you. That night, you find the bridle he'd taken from your saddlebag. It hangs near the fire, cleaned and oiled, the blue thread still tight. But there's something new. Near the bit, small dots have been painted in ochre, a line of symbols you don't understand. You hold it toward him, questioning. He shrugs, almost sheepishly. You press. He lifts his hand, touches your shoulder, not where the brand is, but the opposite side. Then makes a circling motion near the heart. You get it. The symbols aren't his name, they're yours. Rewritten, reclaimed. You turn it over again and see what he carved into the leather beneath the chin strap. A symbol that wasn't there before, a fire ringed in horse prints. You trace it once, breath caught. Then slip it into your saddlebag without a word. That night's sleep comes easier. The dreams don't claw, they drift. Horses running in blue dusk, voices echoing like canyon winds. In the morning, you wake before him, start the fire, slice the meat, boil the bark. He rises, sees it, and doesn't smile. But he nods, and that's enough. You eat in silence, seated across from each other, the saddlebag between you. For a moment it feels like a home, not because of the place, because of the rhythm, the breath, the unspoken truce. Then he breaks it, gently, lays a length of horsehair rope in front of you, knots it twice, hands it over. You nod, understand. Today you'll ride again. And when you do, the bridle, your name rewoven into leather, will be the thing between your hands and the mouth of something wild. You don't fear it, you welcome it, because now the path forward is no longer flight, it's choice. You ride like you've never fallen, like no fire ever touched you. The horse beneath you isn't yours, but it carries you as if it remembers the sound of your voice before you were broken. The bridle fits, your hands know what to do. And beside you, always beside, he rides, not watching, just there. The land changes. Rock gives way to grass, grass to dust, dust to something colder, a wind that speaks in old voices. He slows at a bend in the canyon, reins loose. You follow. Ahead, a circle of painted stones. No markers, but a story laid in shape. He dismounts, kneels, touches one, then another. You hesitate, then drop beside him. One stone bears a single carved notch, another, 3. He taps them in sequence, points to the horizon, then to himself, then back to the stones. You understand? Family gone. You place your palm over the largest stone. Then, gently, the feather still braided in your hair. He watches you do it. Doesn't stop you, doesn't speak. But when you stand, his eyes linger not on the stones, but on the space your hand had pressed, as if something was passed, not given, returned. The sun dips low. You ride again, not far, to a place neither marked nor hidden, a hollow in the land, ringed with ash trees. A leather tarp stretches between two branches. There's a small fire, freshly tended, And there, waiting, the saddle. Not your old one. This one is worn differently, carved, burnished, painted. You dismount and approach. Your fingers brush over the edge of the seat, tracing shapes you don't yet read. But you feel them. Flames, a bird, a pair of eyes, half-lidded. And then your name. Not written in letters, but painted in curves and dots, wrapped into the border, as if it was always part of the saddle's story. You look to him. He doesn't meet your gaze, but he nods once, slow, and places something beside it, your old bridle, the one he'd remarked, the one with your name carved not into the bit, but the heartline. But your feet move forward. Hands lift the hide you stitched the night before. You trace its edge. Then lay it gently over the blank circle. It fits, not perfectly, but truly. He steps back, lets you pin it, his breath shallow, then steady. Later, you sit outside, needle in hand, thread pulled through the sky-colored patch, the sun low, slipping behind the ridge. He brings you a cup of water, touches your shoulder, says your name. Not the old one, not the new one, the one he's never spoken before. You look up, meet his eyes, then nod. He sits beside you, carving again. Same bird as before, but smaller now, lighter. For hours you both work. No words, only the sound of wind in needles and the soft scrape of bone on wood. When night comes, he sets his carving on the windowsill. You place the quilt beside it, and for a while neither of you moves, until he rises, crosses the room, and returns holding something wrapped in cloth. He lays it across your knees. You open it. Inside the comb, but not as before. Now bound with a leather strip fastened through a drilled hole, a gesture, an invitation, to wear it, to keep it, to make it part of your story. You hold it tight, then slide it into your hair, near the feather still tucked there since the riverbank. 2 tokens, 2 voices, 1 road. You look at him. He doesn't smile, but his shoulders drop, like breath exhaled, like history laid down, if only for a night. Outside, coyotes cry far off. Inside, the fire crackles low, and for the first time in too long, you feel not just seen, but received, not just named, but chosen. Tomorrow the trail will rise again, but tonight you rest inside a story that finally threads you whole. The next morning you wake before the fire dies. Ash glows faint red beneath its gray skin. You rise slow, shoulders stiff, hands steady. He sleeps still, back turned, breath even. You slip outside, quilt tucked under one arm, comb still in your hair. The valley smells of frost and pine. Somewhere a bird calls once, then again. You walk past the carved bird on the sill, past the patch of soft earth where wild onions grow, to the place near the water's bend. There you unroll the quilt, lay it flat, and begin. Needle, thread, silence. Every stitch you place now has weight. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. By the time the sun clears the ridge, he's beside you again, holding 2 tin mugs. You take one. He doesn't speak. He just sits and watches your fingers move. At last he places something in your lap, a folded paper. You open it. Inside, a sketch, your saddle, the bridle, the comb, and a word written in a careful, slanted hand. It's not English, but you know what it means. He's written you, named you in his language. You fold the paper slowly, press it to your heart, then to the quilt, then hand it back. He shakes his head, pushes it gently into your saddlebag, keeps his palm over the flap a moment, then releases. That afternoon, you ride again, together, but this time you lead. He lets you. No instruction, no correction, just trust. At a split in the trail, you hesitate. To the left, mountains. To the right, river. He says one word, soft, quiet. You repeat it. He nods. You take the right. River it is. The banks are slow-moving, thick with reeds. He dismounts, kneels, dips something into the water, a small leather pouch. He offers it to you. You open it. Inside, small stones, worn smooth, painted with symbols, sun, rain, fire, smoke. He lays them on the sand in a circle, then points, first to you, then to one stone, then to himself. You study the placement, understand. It's a telling. His past, your path. A choice. You place your finger over the fire symbol, then shift it slightly, closer to yours. Not toward him, just toward warmth. He watches, then gathers the stones again, stands, takes your hand, just for a second, then releases. The horses drink. You refill your flask, and for a moment, everything feels like ceremony, not ritual, remembrance. As if every gesture in this place is a reply to something older, something lost. That evening, back at the stone house, you cook wild onion, root, a sliver of dried meat. He watches you stir, then sets down another carving. This one is different. Two figures, not side by side, facing each other, hands not touching, but close. Almost. You trace it once, then place it on the mantel, beside the comb, beside the quilt. A shrine maybe, or just a story taking shape in objects instead of words. You eat together in soft quiet. And when he lays down that night, he doesn't face away. He faces the fire. So do you. Two backs warmed by the same glow. No words, only breath, only presence, only the long exhale of a woman no longer waiting to be named, because the story has already begun stitching itself into everything she touches. You dream of snow again. But this time the blizzard doesn't howl. It whispers, carries a woman's voice you almost recognize. She's humming, same melody from the cradle song your mother once sang, when her hands were too tired to hold you, but her voice kept holding on. You wake before dawn. The house is still. Outside, the wind tugs softly at the corners. You rise, pull the quilt over your shoulders, and step into the frost-bit morning. The comb stays in your hair, the carving in the house. But the weight of both is with you. He's already at the river, kneeling, his reflection broken by ripples. You stand a moment, watching, then approach. He lifts something from the water, a strip of red cloth, thin, torn, old. He doesn't speak, but you see his hands tremble. You reach for it, take it gently, turn it over. Symbols stitched in faded black thread. Not English, not his people's, not yours, but older, familiar. A symbol your mother stitched once into the hem of your traveling dress. Before the rail station, before the contract, before the storm. You press the cloth to your lips, breathe, then nod. He touches the cloth once more, then your arm. And for a long while you both kneel by the river, the wind brushing past like a question neither of you can answer. Back at the house, you pin the red cloth onto the edge of the quilt. It doesn't match, but it doesn't need to. It belongs because it survived, because it carried something back to you that you hadn't known was lost. Later that day, a rider comes, dusty, hard-eyed. He speaks little, but enough to understand. A nearby settlement is short on medicine. A woman, sick with fever. A child, worse. You don't hesitate. You pack. He watches you load your saddle, then silently begins to do the same. You hold out the comb. He nods, but doesn't take it. You understand. Some things don't need to be carried when they've already been sewn into you. The ride is long, hard. The sky changes color twice before you arrive. The cabin leans like it's grieving. Inside, a woman lies beneath quilts too thin for the season. Her skin burns. The child beside her doesn't stir. You work without speaking. Brew bark tea. Lay cool cloths. Burn sage and cedar in the corners. The rider helps. So does he. You sit with the child through the night. Whisper stories stitched from memory, from thread, from survival. The fever breaks before dawn. The mother wakes with cracked lips and shaking hands. You place your old comb beside her, not as a gift, as a promise. She closes her fingers around it. Whispers, "Thank you." You nod, then ride back, saddle sore, bone tired, but steady. That night, back in the canyon home, you light the fire, pull the quilt over your legs, hold the empty bowl he carved, and trace the symbols burned into its rim. One of them matches the cloth from the river. You ask him what it means. He doesn't answer right away. Then, finally, return. You sit with that word, let it echo in the quiet. You are not who you were, but something in you has come back, not unchanged, not clean, but whole. And that is enough. The seasons begin to turn. You mark time now not by days, but by what your hands finish. The quilt has grown, nearly covers the whole wall. Each patch sewn carries a story, a bead from the river, a thread from the fever cabin, a scrap from your first stitching circle. Yes, there are others now, women from nearby, settler, Comanche, Kiowa. They come quiet, curious. Some stay for tea, some for days. He lets them come, even carves for them, small animals, tokens. You begin to teach, not formally, just with rhythm, needle, thread, silence. And then slowly, stories begin to spill. One woman shares how her baby didn't cry when born, only opened her eyes and stared. Another tells how her husband disappeared into the blizzard with nothing but a lantern and the name of the child he'd never meet. You don't speak often, but when you do, they listen. Because your voice carries something earned, a weight, a warmth. You share the comb story. You don't say who gave it to you. You don't need to. They understand. One day, one of the women, a girl barely grown, brings a bundle. Inside, a child's dress, unfinished. She presses it into your hands. "I never got to finish it," she says, "but maybe someone still can." You don't ask what happened, you just nod. That night, you stitched the dress to the quilt. No trimming, no cleaning. Just as it is, raw, real. He sees it later, doesn't speak. But that evening he hands you a carving, a child's toy, a rabbit, its back cracked from age. You place it below the quilt, a shrine, a memory, a vow. Another evening you find him sitting by the canyon edge, the sun behind him. In his lap a ledger, not from town, from his own hand. Page after page of drawings, names and symbols. Some you recognize, some you feel in your ribs. You point to one, a name with a mark beside it. He hesitates, then says quietly, "Mother." You sit beside him, open your pouch, take out the red cloth from the river, place it on the open page. He doesn't move, but his breath changes, like something untied inside him. He hands you the ledger. You don't open it, just hold it, then hand it back. He presses his hand over yours, not hard, just steady. That night you sleep beside the quilt, and for the first time you dream not of snow, but of thread, spooling endlessly, connecting hands you've never touched to stories you've never heard. And still, somehow, it all pulls through the same needle, one stitch at a time. The first real snow comes early. Not the whisper kind, the kind that weighs down branches and silences boots. You stay inside for days, stitching, boiling root tea, carving, and reading the ledger. Yes, he let you. Quietly passed it to you one morning without a word. You don't rush. Each page feels like a doorway. Some names you sound out loud, some you just feel. There are no dates, only drawings beside each one. A symbol, an object, a memory carved in ink. You reach the middle of the book and pause. There, drawn across 2 pages, is a quilt, yours, but unfinished. You turn to look at the real one, hanging heavy on the wall, draped with snowlight. The match is near perfect, same pieces, same thread, but in the ledger, a blank patch still waits. At the center, you touch it, then set the book aside. You don't open it again for days. The storm deepens. Snow creeps under the door. He seals it with hide. You cook stew. He carves a set of buttons from deer antler. You share them with the sewing women once the storm passes. But during those long snowed-in days, something else happens. The silence between you shifts, not disappears, but changes, becomes companionable. You read aloud one night, an old letter you once carried in the lining of your coat, from your mother. The ink is smudged, the paper worn, but her words still reach across time like a lantern through fog. He listens without interrupting. When you finish, he doesn't speak. He just places another log on the fire, gently, as if that too were a reply. Another night, you wake from a dream, not snow, fire, smoke, a cradle blackened by flame. You sit upright, breath caught. He stirs beside the hearth, says your name once. You rise, cross to him, and kneel. Tell him what you saw. He listens, then reaches behind the mantel, hands you the carving from weeks ago, the bird in flight. It's different now, painted with ash across its wings. You don't ask when he did it. You just press it to your chest. Let your breath settle. Let the fire crackle. Let yourself stay. Later, you sew a patch in deep gray into the quilt. Not stitched in the center, not yet. Just pinned, waiting, like the rest of you, like the snow outside still, but not forever. By mid-morning, a knock comes. A woman, frantic, her child fell, broke a leg. Bleeding won't stop. You grab your kit. He grabs his bag. You ride hard through the snow. No trail, only instinct. You arrive shaking, frozen, but steady. You work fast, packing, stitching, whispering the same cradle tune from your dream, soft beneath your breath. The child quiets. The woman sobs. You place the ash-wing carving on the table beside the bed. Say nothing, just nod once. Back in the canyon, the snow begins to melt. You hang the quilt in the sun. The gray patch still waits, soon, but not yet. He watches from the doorway, says softly, almost. You don't ask what he means. You already know. Spring pushes in like a question. The ice shrinks from the river. The sewing women return, boots muddy, voices lighter. You welcome them with wild honey and flat bread. They bring stories stitched into shawls and birth cloths. One has had her child, another buried hers. Both speak the same, low, careful, with hands that shake over teacups. You listen more than you talk. The girl who once gave you the unfinished dress returns. She wears a stone around her neck now, carved in the shape of a drop. You ask what it means. She says, "What we carry." You nod. And later that day, stitch a mirrored shape into the quilt's bottom edge. When you lay your hand against it, it's cool, steady. You return to the ledger. There's a page you haven't touched, the final one. It's blank. You trace your fingers across it. Then pull a thread from your own dress, braid it, tie it to the corner. A soft claim, a silent name. That evening, he brings you a bundle wrapped in hide. Inside, a coat, too large for you, but sewn with care. Inside the collar, your old name stitched in thread. Beneath it, a second name, yours now. The one only he uses, the one only you feel. You put the coat on. It hangs heavy, familiar, right. He nods once, no smile, just quiet recognition. That night, you finish the center patch of the quilt. Gray, ash-toned, but now embroidered with 3 feathers, one bent, one split, one whole, each pointing in a different direction. The wind howls outside. But inside the fire holds steady. You sleep beneath the quilt for the first time, and in your dream, the bird doesn't burn. It lifts. Takes flight across a sky stitched from ledger pages and hide. You wake with a word on your lips, not in English. You don't recognize it, but your mouth knows the shape. You whisper it again. He hears, he nods, then says, "You remembered." You don't ask how. You just breathe it once more, let it settle. Later he takes out the ledger, hands it to you, this time with a piece of charcoal. You look to the final page, still blank. You take the charcoal, write not your name, but the song from the dream, one word at a time, then close the book. You hand it back. He places it in the carved box where he keeps the feathers, the ashes, the scraps, everything that came before, and everything that still matters. He closes the lid, then looks at you. Not like you're a question, like you're an answer. You wake before dawn. Outside, the canyon holds its breath. No wind, no bird song, just stillness. You slip from beneath the quilt, wrap the coat tight, and step into the hush. There's a weight in the air, like a name about to be spoken. You find him already awake, sitting near the river, ledger beside him. He doesn't turn when you approach, just pats the ground beside him. You sit. He opens the book, not to the final page, to the first, and begins to read. His voice is low, weathered. Each name, a memory, each symbol, a promise. Some you've heard, some you haven't, but all of them settle into your chest like stones in a riverbed. By the time he finishes, the sun has crested the ridge. He closes the book, then turns to you and asks, "Yours?" It's not a question about ownership. It's a question about legacy. You nod. But instead of speaking, you take a knife from your pouch, the one he gave you, antler-handled, carved with quiet birds. You slice a thread from the quilt, the one from your old dress. Then open the ledger, tie the thread around the book's spine. A seal, a binding. He watches, expression unreadable. then reaches into his satchel, pulls out a bundle wrapped in oilcloth. He lays it in your lap. You open it. Inside, a saddle strap, tooled leather, beautifully worn, your name, both of them, branded into the side, one in English, one in his tongue. You run your fingers over each letter, softly, carefully. Then look up. He says, "For your horse." You don't speak, can't. You just nod, then stand. He stands too, and together you walk to the post where your horse is tied. You fasten the strap, buckle it tight, not just for the ride, but for everything that's carried you here. He hands you a small pouch. Inside, the carving of the 3 feathers. You take it, tuck it beneath your coat, you mount. He mounts, and without a word you ride. Not away, not toward, just together. The trail is narrow at first, then widens. The canyon walls fall behind you. The sky opens. You stop near a rise, dismount, and look back at the place where a silent scout carved you into memory, where a forgotten woman stitched herself back into the world. He pulls out the ledger one last time, opens it to the center, presses his palm to the page, then yours, then closes it. Together. When you write again, you don't look back, because some stories aren't meant to be watched from a distance. They're meant to be lived forward, stitched onward, one hoofbeat at a time. The land flattens as you ride east. Winds pick up, not cruel, just constant, carrying the scent of cedar and cold wheat. You cross a stream, still half frozen. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, the words land like stones placed carefully along a path. You'll see the cottonwoods first. You nod. He's right. By dusk they appear. Twisted, tall, stubborn, one has been carved. Initials you don't recognize. He stops there, dismounts. You do the same. Together you tie the horses and approach an old cabin, half collapsed, but not abandoned. A child's shoe rests on the step. A string of dried flowers, woven, not wild, hangs from the door frame. He knocks once, not expecting an answer. Inside, dust swirls in shafts of light. You step over a sun-bleached cradle, run your hand along its edge. No child here, no bed. But stories linger like the scent of old soup and pine smoke. He kneels by the hearth, lifts a charred ledger, its spine cracked, pages curled. But one corner is untouched. You kneel beside him. Together you open to the first legible page. A name? Yours? No, but close. A variation, a beginning. The handwriting is unfamiliar. A woman's. You flip to the next. A list of symbols. Dates, not recent but not ancient either. Then, pressed between 2 pages, a feather, gray soft, not from here. You touch it. He places a hand on your back, says nothing. Outside night falls. You stay the evening inside, build a fire from broken slats, boil tea. He finds an old brush and begins restoring the cradle. You sew, patching a small square torn from your coat into the cabin's only blanket. By morning the wind has stilled. You step outside and see it. On his saddle, fresh paint. Your name, in both tongues, not carved, painted, deliberate. As if claiming doesn't always require fire. Sometimes it just needs color. You run your hand along the name, then mount. Together you ride again. Slower this time, because the trail isn't about distance, it's about return. You reach a field by late afternoon. He stops, points to a hill. There a woman waits, older, wrapped in a shawl stitched from dozens of scraps. No two the same. She walks toward you with a limp, but her eyes are sharp. She stops a few feet away, then smiles. "Thought you'd come," she says. You dismount. She touches the strap on your saddle, nods once, then leads you to her home, a sod house set into the hill. Inside, the walls are lined with ledgers, books, bundles of cloth. You sit. She pours tea, looks at you, then says, "He said you had a name." You nod, whisper it. She repeats it, softly, with care. Then opens a small chest. Inside, another ledger. Blank. She hands it to you. "This one's for what comes next." You take it, hold it to your chest, then meet her eyes. She sees you, truly, fully, and smiles. The fire crackles. He places the carved cradle near the hearth, sits beside it, and hums, low, quiet, the same tune you once dreamed, the one you no longer forget because it belongs to you now, because it always did. You stay for days. The woman on the hill, her name is Sal. She shows you how to keep a ledger in her style, symbols first, words second. You draw what you feel before you understand it, she says. You try. Your first page is a circle. Inside it, a comb, a saddle strap, a feather. She studies it, then nods. Memory should be round. He builds a small coop while you learn. Not because you asked, just because he noticed the silence in the mornings. By the third day, chickens scratch near the doorway. By the fourth, they lay. Sal hands you a pot of blue paint, points to her door. You think for a moment, then paint a single feather, bent but unbroken. She laughs when she sees it, then hands you another pot. This one, red. You hesitate, but she nods. You add a line across the feather's tip. She nods again. Now it's true. That night you sit with the ledger again. This time you draw a thread. It loops and tangles, crosses over itself, then ties into a knot. You don't write anything, but you leave the page open. He sees it the next morning, doesn't speak, just places a carved needle beside the book. You smile and leave it there. The days stretch. You and Sal tend the small garden. He carves a new cradle, one with Comanche patterns along the base. When he finishes, he doesn't say who it's for. He doesn't have to. You sew a pillow for it that evening, stitch a line of ledger symbols along its edge. Sal watches from the fire, then asks, "What name will it carry?" You don't answer. You just hum the tune again. She hears and begins to harmonize. The sound fills the house, not like music, like memory. When you sleep, your dreams are lighter, not free of pain, but framed by meaning, like pages that once burned but now glow. You dream of the canyon, of a cradle on a river, of a bird circling above, not lost, not seeking, just watching. The next morning you walk to the hill's edge. The horizon glows gold. You take out the blank ledger Sal gave you. Draw a single line across the center of the first page. Then write one word, yours, the new one. The one no court gave you. The one no town recorded, but one that carries feathers, snow, thread, silence, and ash. You close the book, walk back to the house, and begin packing. Sal doesn't ask why. She just hands you dried fruit, a wrapped stone, and a vial of ochre paint. He readies the horses. The cradle is tied gently between saddlebags. You ride without speaking, not from sadness, but from reverence. You stop at the cottonwood tree once more, touch the initials, then draw a single symbol beside them, a feather bent, unbroken, painted in red. Then, with one last glance toward the canyon beyond, you ride north. toward the ridge where your name will echo, toward the next fire waiting to be lit, toward the silence that, this time, won't be empty. The trail narrows again just before the ridge. You pause, not for breath, but to listen. Wind rustles the sage. Your horse shifts, sensing something in the air. You look behind you. There's no one. Only the fading tracks of where you've come from, and the weight of what you carry. He watches you from just ahead, doesn't press, just waits. The cradle rests behind his saddle, swaying gently. You dismount, take the ledger from your bag, not the old one, the new. You open it to the last page. It's still blank, but not empty. You kneel and press your palm to the parchment. Your fingers leave a smudge of red dust from the ochre Sal gave you. Then you take a thread from your coat, lay it across the mark, and close the book, sealed. You rise. He's beside you now, hands you the feather you left behind at the cabin. It's tied to a small bead, one you never saw him carve. You loop it around your wrist, a circle, soft, undeniable. The sun crests above the ridge. You mount again. Together you ride through the last stretch of silence. At the top, the land spills wide. Rolling hills, scattered pines, the flicker of a distant campfire far below. You inhale. And for the first time in your life, the breath feels yours, completely. He points to the valley, says, "That's where we begin." Not where we end, where we begin. You don't speak, you don't need to. Instead, you guide your horse forward. Let the warmth of the rising sun touch your skin. Let the fire of all you've survived burn quietly behind your eyes. No courtroom called your name. No document ever wrote you right. But this place, this sky, this earth, this man, this silence, they do. And that's enough. You ride until the light shifts golden. Then you stop beside a low tree. You take out the new ledger and open it to the first full page. This time, you don't draw feathers, you draw a cradle, built from ash, carried by a silent scout, named by a woman who remembered herself just in time. You close the book, lay it gently into the saddlebag, and turn back toward the trail. Wind curls around your coat, lifts the hem like a ribbon. You smile. You survived being unnamed. You survived being unwanted. You turned silence into song, ash into shelter, and now the fire inside you doesn't flicker. It glows. Soft, steady, true. The kind of fire that guides others home. You look over at him. He sees it too. The way your name doesn't need saying anymore, because it's already been written, in thread, in breath, in ledger, in light. The cradle rocks once behind him as your horses begin to move. And you know, without doubt, it will hold what comes next. Whatever it is, whoever they become, whatever trail you carve from here, because you didn't just survive the storm, you became the warmth that followed it, the hand that stitched a name, the voice that made the silence sing, the flame that never asked permission, only glowed.